On the surface, it might seem obvious. The Maze Bank Tower has to be the best office, and the Farmhouse Bunker must be the best underground business for location, right? Well, not exactly. Today, I'm here to prove that the best business locations in GTA Online aren't where you'd expect them to be. Starting off with the offices, the worst office by far is the Long Bank West location. Being the farthest from downtown with a price tag of $3.1 million, there's just no reason to buy this office over any of the other options. Right across the road is the Maze Bank West building, which is the cheapest office available, and it serves as a great starting point for newer players. However, it is farther away from many of its warehouses, putting it in a not so ideal location. However, its $1 million price tag is hard to pass up. The Maze Bank Tower is very iconic, and it's a staple in the Los Santos skyline. But with a price tag of $4 million and its overall popularity, it does make this location a bit busier within the session. With that being said, if you have the extra money, definitely feel free to go for it. But for someone looking to save a couple $1 million, the Arcadius Business Center is the best option there is. Being right across the street from the Maze Bank Tower, it's got a wonderful design and a more affordable price tag. An adjacent business to the offices is the basic warehouses around the city, and to start, we'll touch on one that many players probably haven't even bought in the first place, the small warehouses. The worst small warehouse is the Pier 400 utility building, which is located way down on Elysian Island, and costs almost $400,000, making it way more expensive than average with a fairly shitty location. Moving slightly north and roughly half a kilometer closer to its missions, the Pacific Storage Warehouse is also slightly cheaper. Moving even farther north to the Foreclosure Garage in West Vinewood, this warehouse is a wonderful location. However, it is by far the most expensive small warehouse, costing $400,000. The White Widow Garage is one of the best in this category when it comes to sale missions, being an average of only 2 kilometers away from its sale points, which is honorable given its $360,000 price tag. The second best small warehouse is also the second cheapest, costing $318,000. The cell tower unit is located in La Mesa and has many other businesses in its vicinity, though its design is fairly lackluster. Meaning the best small warehouse is the convenience store lockup in Rancho, which is also the cheapest small warehouse for only $250,000. But let's be honest, nobody's buying any small warehouses nowadays, so you may as well just skip right to the large ones and save yourself the hassle. But before we rank the large warehouse locations, we have to touch on the medium ones first. The old power station costs $1 million, just slightly cheaper than the most expensive, though it doesn't have great access to the roads around it, and its location is a bit more tucked away and difficult to maneuver. The rail yard warehouse is a bit more centralized in the city, but is also the most expensive, costing $17,000 more than the old power station. However, given its better location, it did manage to avoid being the worst medium warehouse. The LS Marine building is definitely too far from any of its missions, and it's a little convoluted to get to, especially considering its price, that is also near $1 million. The disused factory outlet in Strawberry is likely the best medium warehouse when it comes to sale missions, even if its average source mission is significantly farther away. The G warehouse is the cheapest of the category, only costing $880,000. However, aside from Elysian Island, it's probably the worst location, being way out in the boondocks of the oil field east of the city, making it a bit more difficult to access. The Frigid Annex building has wonderful saleability, and is probably one of the more accessible warehouses, being located near the junction of 2 more popular roads. But if you're looking to build your empire within Vinewood's core, the discount retail unit is your only option for medium warehouses, and it did score well across the entire board with the exception of its naming and ease of access, since the area can be quite busy, meaning that the best medium warehouse is the Derriere Lingerie backlot, located in Vespucci Canals. It's also close to half of the offices we previously mentioned, and its scoring was optimal across the board. As for large warehouses, which is typically what many of us own, since they're definitely more worth their expensive price tag, the worst one is the Walker & Sons warehouse, which has horrible accessibility and costs over $3 million. The Darnell Bros warehouse might be in a popular location for businesses, but it does still cost $3.5 million. I personally love this location, but if you're looking for a more budget-friendly option, avoid buying this property. One of the worst locations for a large warehouse is the Cypress warehouse. And to me, the most disappointing part is the fact that we only get a small building on the side of the overall Cypress warehouses. So despite the large signage being on the large building, we don't gain access to it, even with its $3.2 million price tag. The logistics depot mostly struggles due to its overall popularity, as many players own this warehouse since it only costs $2.6 million and is pretty easily accessible to a main road, but with that being said, I've been ambushed here by players many times. If you're looking for a quick runaway to the airport, Buckacherz Warehouse is extremely close to many of the sale missions since they take place at the airport. However, it's one of the worst when it comes to source missions, so you have to win some and lose some when it comes to this property. Vinewood's large warehouse is the West Vinewood backlot, which surprisingly only costs $2.1 million, and is the closest for almost every type of mission available. With that being said, there's not many other businesses in the area to streamline your empire. The Zero Gas Factory is also located near the airport, but with a bit more accessibility and a more affordable price tag than the Buckacherz warehouse. It's also great for those who love the company itself, which makes the Wholesale Furniture Warehouse the best in its field, mostly due to the fact that it's in an accessible location and it's by far the cheapest option here, only costing $1.9 million. But with the cheap price comes more popularity in players, so keep that in mind as well. Before we move into clubhouses and biker businesses, I wanted to shed some light on my editor Kyle.
Hello everybody, it's me, Lord Trumpet, here at the Tremendous Trumpet Maze,
who does tremendous work on helping me get these videos out on time and edited to their fullest potential. He's trying to reach 2,000 subs by the end of the year.
I'm just trying to make a living here.
And similar to last year, I'm offering him a bonus if he manages to do so. Anyhow, moving on to the clubhouses, it should come as no surprise that the two worst clubhouses are both located in Paleto Bay, starting with the two-story clubhouse that costs $250,000 and being closely followed by the one-story clubhouse that costs $8,000 less. Both of these have a horrible location and are terribly far from anything else of importance. The Great Chapel Clubhouse is one of my personal favorites, and it only costs $200,000, even being free for some players. That being said, it's still in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, and no other businesses are super close by, with the exception of a couple biker businesses. The Del Perro location is quite useful, but it still costs $365,000, which is definitely above average. Sandy Shores also has a clubhouse nearby, but I'm not sure I've ever actually seen anyone buy this location, so its popularity is quite low, so I guess it's not very busy, but it's also in the middle of nowhere. The two-story clubhouse in downtown Vinewood costs $472,000, but is again nice for those people who want to run their empires within the Vinewood core. The clubhouse in Rancho is not very utilized, but it still costs $420,000, which seems high given its less than ideal location. The Hawick Clubhouse is the most expensive clubhouse in the game, costing just shy of $500,000. Now, it has a wonderfully centered location, but it's also fairly popular, meaning that it sees more traffic than average. The Pillbox Hill Clubhouse is the best single-story clubhouse, and its price is fairly reflective at $455,000, but it's very central to downtown. Believe it or not, the Grapeseed two-story clubhouse comes in third, as it only costs $225,000, and scored slightly above average across the board. Then again, it's still in Grapeseed. The Vespucci Beach two-story clubhouse is in a good location, but it could be slightly better since it's located near the southern end of the beach, making it slightly less accessible than its counterparts. Meaning that the best clubhouse is in La Mesa. Located close to many other businesses and along a major road, this $449,000 two-story clubhouse mainly lacks due to its exterior design and increased price tag. As for the biker businesses, I'll be ranking them on different properties for each business type rather than ranking them collectively. So for the document forgery office, the worst location is in Paleto Bay. In third place is the Grapeseed location, which is also the cheapest of the bunch, costing $650,000. However, having any businesses in Grapeseed comes with its severe remoteness. In second place is the Elysian Island forgery, which is more expensive but also a tad closer when it comes to source and sale missions. So once again, cost comes with its value, as the $1.2 million Pillbox Hill forgery office takes the win due to its amazing location and ease of access. On top of that, it is 2 times closer to the average source mission than any of its counterparts. As for weed farms, the worst one is located in downtown Vinewood and costs $1.3 million. Despite being the closest for its missions, it sees a lot of traffic and an increased price tag. The Paleto Bay weed farm costs $800,000, and again, it's primarily scored poorly due to its location and its distance from any of its missions, averaging over 6 kilometers to any of its mission points. The Elysian Island weed farm is more centered, but also still quite expensive at $1,072,000, which puts it just behind the Sanchansky weed farm along the freeway for only $715,000. And although it's far away from its missions, it's very accessible, and with a fast car on the highway right there, it's the most ideal. Now to keep us moving, since this video is already getting kind of long, the worst counterfeit cash factory is in Vespucci Beach, costing $1.6 million. Next is the Paleto Bay location for the same reasons as before. It's too far out there. And then the cheapest option in Harmony is next, mostly due to how popular it is. Meaning the Elysian Island location is probably the best, but not by much. When it comes to that blue stuff,
why are you blue?
The El Burro Heights location is the most expensive and the worst at $1.7 million. Again, the Paleto Bay location is too far away from everything else. Harmony once again comes in second at only $900,000, putting the Elysian Island location in first, but again this was very close and could be up to personal preference between the top two. And last but not least is the Coca-Cola lockups. Of course, the most expensive option in Morningwood is last, and at $1.8 million, it's just absurd. The Alamo Sea location is very popular, but surprisingly is the closest for sale distances. However, given its accessibility and overall location, it ended up just behind the Paleto Bay location, which is surprisingly more expensive. So once again, the Elysian Island location comes in first, despite its $1.4 million price tag. Now of course, for all the biker businesses, there's a lot of personal preference. So if my ranking doesn't match up with your favorite locations, that's okay, as these could also depend on where your clubhouse or other biker businesses are located. And this can be said for all of the businesses in this entire video. Heading back to the office district, we have the vehicle warehouses, which all serve the same purpose, so the price did play a big factor here. The worst vehicle warehouse is in La Puerta, and although it scored fairly across the board, it fell below average in every category. The two LSIA locations are basically tied for second last, since their prices are fairly similar, and the only reason the East location scored slightly better is due to a slightly improved ease of access. The Murrieta Heights location is ridiculously overpriced compared to the other warehouses. With that being said, it's in the same location as the new Salvage Yard, so that could play a factor if you like the area. The Davis location is also close to another business with an arcade located in the same building. However, it still costs $2.5 million, and its garage door isn't super accessible from the road. Cypress Flats comes in for the third most expensive price tag, although its location and proximity to a major roadway did help its score. The Elysian Island location is way too far from everything else, having the worst score for sale distance, though its $1.9 million price tag and ease of access was enough to put it in third. Now if it weren't for its complicated ease of access and general distance from the appropriate missions, the El Burro Heights location would have been a good contender. But obviously the cheapest vehicle warehouse in La Mesa is our winner today. But since it's only $1.5 million, it does see a lot of traffic from other players using this business. However, it's not very utilized today, so that's less of an issue. Next, we have the bunkers, and since there isn't much to compare them on other than location and ease of access, we'll rapid fire through these. Grapeseed is the worst simply due to its remoteness and distance from missions. The base Grand Senora Desert location is more centralized, but also more expensive and still in the middle of nowhere. The Thompson Scrapyard may be close to the highway, but it's slightly more inaccessible due to the terrain around it, and on top of that, it still costs $2.3 million. The Paleto Forest location may be the cheapest, but again, its location is abysmal, though it is pretty. The Grand Senora Oil Fields location is more desirable than the Grand Senora Desert location, and has a slightly better price. The Smoke Tree Road location is a fan favorite, although it isn't super accessible, it is still closer than average to its sale missions than the rest. The Route 68 bunker only costs $1.9 million, and although it's close to a major road, this road doesn't run towards the city, which isn't super helpful. The Farmhouse bunker is the most expensive and closest to the eastern side of the city. Personally, I love this location, but it is more popular amongst players, and given its expensive price tag, not ideal for your wallet. The Raton Canyon location might have the worst ease of access, but its location is beautiful and less populated than the rest of the map. With that being said, solo sale missions aren't really plausible from this bunker. The Lago Zancudo bunker would greatly benefit from a simpler access point to the highway, but instead its ease of access did knock it down a peg. Which means the best overall bunker is in Chumash. Kumosh? How do you pronounce that? Because everyone tells me I'm wrong every time. This bunker only costs $1.6 million and is right off the highway, very close to the western side of the city. The hangar should also be very quick, as many people figure that the benefits of having a hangar in Fort Zancudo outweigh the savings from having one in LSIA. And given the ease of access and cost for the Fort Zancudo A2 hangar at $3.2 million, it's by far the worst. The 3497 hangar, however, is significantly cheaper and located right beside it, making it much better than its counterpart. Similarly, the LSIA hangar number 1 costs $300,000 more than its neighbor, placing it only in third. The best hangar in Fort Zancudo is hangar 3499, which is slightly more expensive than 3497, but has better ease of access and is located right on the runway. Now, despite being farther from the majority of its sail missions and source missions, the $1.2 million price tag of Hangar A7 in LSIA is hard to pass up, especially given its ease of access and closeness to the city, making it overall your best hangar, unless you really want that Fort Zancudo clearance. It's also helpful that the airports have some of the largest parking lots in the game, which I will be ranking at 75,000 subscribers, which is only 14,500 away. So if you want to see which parking lot is the best in the game, consider subscribing. With facilities, it mostly comes down to which one is the closest to the city, which means Paleto Bay is by far the worst of the bunch. Sandy Shores follows close behind it due to its $2.7 million price tag, with Zancudo River coming up next, strictly due to its limited access, as it's a little difficult to get to. The Grand Senora Desert location is more central, but still costs $2.5 million. Mount Gordo might be the worst location of them all, but I will say, having my facility out here, it is very peaceful to own something on this corner of the map, where you remain fairly untouched from any of the chaos in online. The Route 68 facility is more desirable location-wise, but still struggles slightly in every other category. The Land Act Reservoir is kind of like the Raton Canyon Bunker. It's in a beautiful location that's also close to the city, however its ease of access is very limited. The Lago Zancudo location is much more desirable, especially given its $1.6 million price tag and proximity to the freeway. But our number one facility is the Ron Alternatives Wind Farm, which is close to the city right off the freeway, and although it's slightly more difficult to access with a steep hill, it's still one of the best locations overall. Nightclubs have a lot of factors when it comes to the best location, but as for the worst, that would be in West Vinewood. Now, although it has a beautiful exterior, it still costs $1.7 million, making it the most expensive on the list. The Del Perro location is slightly cheaper, but has one of the worst scores for average sail distance, which is surprising given its proximity to the city. The downtown Vinewood location is roughly the same price as the West Vinewood location, but is slightly cheaper, allowing it to get a better placement. The Strawberry location is one of the closest for its average source mission, but the area does see more traffic, making it more dangerous in general. Then we have the LSIA nightclub, which is fairly limited when it comes to accessibility, and I'm not sure why you'd go to a nightclub at the airport anyway. The Vespucci Canals nightclub is quite popular for those looking to get away, as it's less used but still in a great area. Meanwhile, the Elysian Island nightclub only got 4th place because of its $1 million price tag, as its location is horrid, being the farthest from any of its sail missions or anything else you'd want to use this business for. The La Mesa location is $1.5 million, putting it in the mid-pack for price. However, it is close to many other businesses and has good access to the tunnels, which is great for those who like to work a little more under the radar like myself. The Mission Row nightclub has limited access, but is slightly cheaper and closer to the city, giving it the edge it needed to surpass the rest. But the number one nightclub is in Cypress Flats, being right off a fairly major road. With its garage door at the intersection of two crossroads, it's extremely easy to zip in with your goods upon being chased. No need to drive around the building or through a narrow alleyway. Well, we only have 5 businesses left: arcades, auto shops, agencies, salvage yards, and bail agencies. So let's keep this train rolling. The worst arcade is Wonderama in Grapeseed. Although it has a wonderful name and a decent price, again, Grapeseed is not the place to be trying to run an empire. Insert Coin in Morningwood took over what used to be a wine store and cost $2.3 million, which is slightly above average compared to its competition. Pixel Pizza is located in Paleto Bay, and this is the cheapest of the bunch by far. However, the arcade is where we host the casino heist from, and this is extremely far from the casino. The Warehouse Arcade in Davis is connected to a vehicle warehouse, which could be ideal for certain players. However, if that's not a factor for you, it's just slightly above average. The 8-bit arcade might be a little ways from the casino, but it's on a road that goes directly there, meaning it's easy to travel to and from. But with a $2.5 million price tag, it's not our best option. At only $1.8 million, the Video Gettin' arcade might be the most popular and heavy traffic arcade, though it's only a short drive from the casino, and it's right off the freeway, making it the best arcade we can buy. When it comes to auto shops, personal preference and exterior design is a huge factor that changes it drastically from person to person, so I try to avoid focusing on that. The worst auto shop is in Rancho for $1.7 million. Now, although it's in the mid-pack for price, it got about a 55% grade across all metrics. The Burton location is slightly pricier, but it's the only location north of the city, meaning it's the closest to most of the customer deliveries, if that's something you fancy. The La Mesa location is very close to the freeway, and although it's not the best price-wise, it is fairly decent overall. The Strawberry location might be the furthest from customer deliveries, but it is a nice design in a decent location close to the city. But not the closest. That would go to the Mission Row Auto Shop, which has decent access and the cheapest price tag across the board. The only problem is the general popularity due to the aforementioned cost. Agencies are similar to offices, as they're all in high-rise buildings that don't have many factors aside from price and location. I think the worst agency is in Rockford Hills, due to its general accessibility to main roads. The Hallwick location is the most expensive at $2.8 million, and although I really enjoy this location due to its proximity to other businesses, it's definitely not the best. The Little Seoul location is the cheapest at only $2 million, but is in a slightly worse location compared to the Vespucci Canals counterpart for only $150,000 more, meaning that despite being across the street from the police station, the Vespucci Canals agency is the best overall option. When it comes to salvage yards, again, price is the biggest factor, meaning that the La Puerta yard is the worst at $2.7 million. Now, although it makes the most sense logically, I just can't justify that price tag. Next up, we have Sandy Shores, which still costs $2 million, and like many of the Sandy Shores and Grapeseed locations, it's too far gone to be worth the drive. The same can be said for the Paleto Bay Salvage Yard, which is the original Reds mechanic. The only reason he managed to get third place is because it's the cheapest salvage yard there is. The Strawberry location is the second most expensive and most popular location due to its proximity in the city, so expect to see a lot of other players around here. Meaning that the Murrieta Heights salvage yard for $150,000 less is the best salvage yard, also being right off of the freeway and a major roadway. Which means last and not least, we have bail agencies. Obviously the worst one is in Paleto Bay, despite being the cheapest, and the second worst is in downtown Vinewood, simply because it's way too expensive. So where do our top 3 bail agencies fall? Well, Del Perro is a great option, though it's typically farther away from majority of what you'll use it for. The Mission Row location is what was featured in the trailer, but given its $2.4 million cost, it couldn't beat out the Davis location, which is only $2 million and scored consistently well across the board. So there you have it, every single business location in GTA Online ranked from worst to best. Let me know which ones you disagreed with in the comments below, and I'll see you next week.